Hello everyone, Wicked Modeler 3D here, and today we're going to be showing you a tutorial on how to make a Halo level, how to model a Halo 1 level in Blender. So so if you guys want to know how to install the mod tools and stuff, just look on YouTube and you'll find a video on how these are installed. It's really simple to install. Just look for a video for that. Another thing I recommend you getting for this tutorial before you start is this application right here, Asoyos. So this basically is a GUI that allows you to instantly run programs within the mod tools and stuff, and you can easily get to your tool a lot faster, so you don't have to do it the old school way. This is a very helpful tool to have. So I'll link these in the description below, so you can download it for yourself. If you want to learn how these are installed, just look on YouTube, and it's relatively simple. So anyway, with that being said, we're going to carry on with our Halo modeling tutorial. So what you're going to do is you're going to start out with a cube, and what you're going to do is you're going to scale this pretty much like this. Another thing I recommend you doing, instead of increasing your view distance way higher, is I recommend you going over here to your scene settings. So this little this little icon right here, and you're going to select Halo Scene Properties, Global Settings. You're going to select CE for this, set Halo Scene, and you'll start to notice that it will scale correctly to Halo 1's JMS units. But still, it's still Blender's units, if that makes any sense. It just tries to scale it close to the JMS, if not exact. So what we're going to do now is we're going to tap N to appear our sidebar, and we're going to go to Scale Model Helper, Character. We're going to do Cyborg, which is the Master Chief, and we can see that our cube is way too small, so we need to expand it. And while we're at it, we're going to go to Edit Mode, and we are going to flip our normals. So we go to Mesh, Normals, Flip, and then on the top right here, we're going to click on this little drop down, and then we're going to do Backface Culling, and you'll see inside the cube. And we're going to move this up like that. We may want to scale it like this. We want to make our materials, so we're going to start out with the plus sky material, exactly like that, and then we're going to make a material called example underscore tutorial underscore ground, and we're going to get the TIFs for that. So you can easily find these provided TIFs in your levels directory. So in your HCK folder, your Halo 1 mod tools folder, you're going to go to data, levels, test, tutorial, and then we're going to go for bitmaps, and we're going to select this one right here. This is what we need. So example tutorial ground.tif. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to change our we're going to change this to texture, or you can we're going to assign the material. So you're going to select the material, click the face where you want the material to be assigned, and then you click this assign button. And we can see that we don't really see it all except for this corner. We'll fix that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over here until we see the double arrows, right click, vertical split, and then on the top left, we have two screens now. So for the left, we're going to go on the top left where you see this little icon right here, and then we're going to do UV editor. And we can see that we haven't fully unwrapped this part. So in our 3D viewport, while you're hovering your mouse over it, we're going to tap U and then unwrap. And you can see that it's successfully done it. Now, if we want to see the grass and stuff that have been included by the mask, we're going to turn off our alpha. So instead of it being straight, we're going to set it to none. We can see our full ground here. So we may want to increase it on the x-axis. We're just going to scale it on the x-axis here. So something like this would work. Maybe a little bit to the x-axis. So you could do SX to scale it on the x or y or z axis. Doesn't really matter. So we got something like this. We may want to scale it just a tiny bit like this normally. So like that. If you want to, you can go up here and turn off the grid, since it doesn't really mean anything right now. So anyway, since we have created that, now we're going to make sure these should be sky materials. You can put a color on this temporarily, and you can hold Z and then material preview, and you can actually see the material. And then what you're going to do is when you're done doing that, you can go to solid view, and then you can have your backface call thing on. So anyway, we're going to click the bottom here, and we're going to subdivide this 4 times. It's important that you do this. So 3, 4. Okay. So we subdivided this 4 times. Now what we're going to do is, what I recommend doing is, for the sky faces, what you're going to do is, while you have the sky material selected, we're going to select all the select button right here. We're going to tap H to hide them. And then here we pretty much select like this. So we want to select 2 rows like this, and then for the back of these we want to select it by 1 like this, exactly how I have it. And then we're going to do GZ to move this up a little bit. We can see here that we got this pretty good. So we have it in a good angle. Doesn't need to be steep, but something like this would work. So anyway, now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and make our little hills for our bounds of our map. So what we're going to do now is we are going to join these screens here. So we're not going to use the UV editor for a little bit. So we're just, so if this area is highlighted, just click this arrow over this UV window, and then you can easily expand your 3D viewport. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hit this button up here, or by tapping O on the keyboard, and this will enable proportional editing, which basically makes things smooth. So it's kind of like the same with sculpting tools, but it's a little different. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap G on the keyboard, and then we're going to move our mouse wheel backwards, and then we're going to put it on the Z axis. So we're going to tap Z, so it only does it on the Z axis. And we're going to pretty much make hills that are kind of realistic. We want to make it look comparable to like real terrain changes and such. For these back things, you could turn on and off if you don't really need it. But typically, what I do is I like doing this so that I can get a better angle. So then that way I don't disrupt the floor underneath. And then once I get done with that, then I can easily scroll down here. Yeah, it's just the camera's a little, I kind of hate Blender's camera. But this is pretty much the way to do it. The only thing I like about Blender is it's a little open source, and it's open source. You can easily put whatever you want add-on wise. But that's for another discussion. But anyway, I'm just kind of shaping these like these. I mean, you don't really have to watch me do this if you really don't want to. So you can just go back and forth, go like this. So yeah, so this should look fine for what we're going to use it for. So now, once we got the outer bounds, have some topography with it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to select our stream like this, and we're going to right click, subdivide, go to vertex select. We're going to kind of select it like this. Pretty much we're just going to select it like this, kind of like within the bounds of the stream, and then make sure you have your proportional editing turned off, and we're going to pull these a little bit down, not too deep. I mean, you can go a little deep, but not too deep at the same time. So we got that. We got the stream down. So now we can put our water in. So now we're going to object mode, make ourselves a new plane, and then in here we're pretty much going to move this here. And then while in object mode, we're going to do S and then Y or X, depending on where you made or modeled your stuff. It could be different, so I would just kind of, go back and forth. So anyway, we're gonna make sure we have a water material on it. So we're gonna do example tutorial stream. We're gonna do actually, we don't need to do that. I want to show you something cool while we're here. So once you've made this thing, instead of putting a exclamation mark like I was gonna do, for this you don't really need to do that. There's a much easier way to do it. So if we scroll down until when you see Halo material properties, I would check that box, go down into the drop down of the flag section, and we're gonna put render only, which is the same as telling the game by prefixes, by exclamation mark, that this is going to be render only, meaning this isn't tied to collidable geometry. So we're going to do that, so I don't have to put prefixes and stuff. So anyhow, we're going to go ahead and move this forward. And while we're here, we're going to do Control A in object mode, and then scale for this plane. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a UV unwrap. So we're going to pull out our UV unwrap window again. So we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to do U and then unwrap. And we're going to put 8 loop cuts like this. And your UVs should look like this. So yeah, that's why I have you apply the scales, because we scaled it in object mode. So basically, we're telling Blender to apply the transforms. So anyway, so that's how you do it. So we're gonna go ahead and scale this here. So we're gonna kind of just scale it on the x-axis a little bit, so we have enough to cover this area. So we can just move it here, and we can adjust it accordingly, like this. You can apply it however you want to, but that's how I do it. So now, before we join it with this object, we're gonna align it to the stream. So we're going to do Alt-Z for transparency mode. You can go back and forth to change it. So we're going to move this on the x-axis. Basically, we're pretty much doing it like this. I might have made it a little too... I probably made it a little too wide there. But I'm not really all that worried about textures. You'll get better as you go, but really it's not that hard. It's just it takes a little bit of time to get used to it. That's just part of 3D modeling in general. So anyway, we have that. So we're gonna move that there. We're gonna move it on the x-axis like this. So pretty much it will fit. So we don't have any problems here. So we're gonna move this here, kind of just shimmy around a little bit. So we got that. Now what we're gonna do is we are going to apply the texture for this. So we're gonna apply it. So we're gonna go to our bitmaps folder in our data directory, like I said before, and we're gonna click on example tutorial stream, open image. And then if it appears like this, don't worry. Just hit 3 on your keyboard or hit this button up here. And you can do SX to scale it like this. So basically this makes it a whole lot easier so you don't, run into problems. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So now we got our water in correctly. Now what we're going to do is we are going to join this together. So we're going to click our stream object first, and then we're going to click our level, and then we're going to do Control J to join them together. And as you can see, that it transferred the stream material. So don't worry about this 2 thing. It doesn't really affect what we're doing here. So now what we're going to do is before we get to the basis here, we're going to turn on our proportional editing, or tapping O again, and pretty much making a little hill for this little middle piece here. So we're going to do something like this. Yeah, just be careful to not affect the water while you're doing it, so then that way it would be a lot easier. So it should look something like this. Now once we have done that, what we can do is add our bases. So if you want to unhide the walls, you can do Alt H and it'll appear back again. I just pretty much had these sky faces turned off so I can easily edit stuff, because when you have occlusion on, you can't really select inside the box. Like inside, it's like selecting the back faces. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and set up our bases. So we're gonna make our cube, and we're also gonna need our scale model here. It's very important that you have the cyborg scale model there, or the model of the Master Chief. So we're gonna move this over here. And we're gonna make sure we have this there. What I recommend doing is we're going to go up here and change just the vertex with the snap. And we're going to click this magnet, where you can hold Control to alternate the snapping. So yeah, it goes like that. And he's on the ground. Or you can just easily do it like this and do it by the corner. So that way you have an accurate way of trying to measure stuff. So basically it will be on top of the ground, or you could do face project. But anyway, that's for another time. So now we're going to align it with the Master Chief. So we're going to put him in the front here like this. So once we've done that, we are going to scale on the x-axis. We want it to be a little wide. You can move them around accordingly while you're doing it. You want to ideally keep this in the center, so then you have enough room to build. And I would scale it on the y-axis a little bit, so you have enough width to put a door, a hallway through this, and we'll get to that. So we're gonna adjust the height here, so we're only the face here. Oh yeah, another thing too is don't forget to turn off proportional editing. I forgot to do that. It's a bad habit. Just make sure you turn that off when you're doing something precise like this. So we're gonna put it up a little high on purpose like this, and here we're gonna tap I to inset, and then we're gonna do our top faces here, and then an SY like this. And then we're going to delete our bottom faces like this. And we also, oh yeah, and also underneath as well. But before we do that, or actually, it doesn't really matter. We're going to just put 2 loop cuts here. And then we're going to extrude by tapping E to extrude. And then what we're going to do is we're going to merge these vertices down. So we're going to pick the top first, and then the bottom last, M. And then we're going to do L for last. And then ML again, and this will give us a angled stair, pretty much bare bones. Now make sure that this is flat, these parts that we deleted, because yeah, so we're just going to do it like that. Just select that edge, snap it to that vertex like this, and make sure that this works, or this still fits with the Master Chief model. If it doesn't, you can kind of adjust it. So what you can do is we're going to just move it a little bit on here. So we're going to move it on the Z-axis a little bit. And we're going to move the frame up just a tad like this. It should work that way. And then we can move it around. So it should be something like this, where you can easily put it down. So like something like this should work. So now we have the door frame set. Now what we're going to do is we're going to select both of our faces by holding shift and then left click. And once you have both of those faces selected, we're going to do edge, and then we're going to do bridge edge loops, and we have done that. So now if you see flickering textures, that's just Z fighting. I wouldn't worry about it until when we get to the cutting part, which is pretty soon. But for now, right now, we're going to put this as base as our material. So we're going to create a base material by hitting this add button and then new or whatever else. And then, yeah, that's pretty much how you assign that, and make sure that's assigned, so that way it would be a lot easier for us to select it later. Also, make sure you have all these bottom faces deleted except for the hallway. So we're almost there. We need to delete these faces like that. And we're going to do a little bit of cheating to make it faster. So what we're going to do is we're going to do E, S, and then X or Y, depending on, you know, how you have your shortcut set up. And we're going to do it twice, and then move it forward like this, and then move it forward like that. Then we're going to do something like this. I might want to move it back. So I would just kind of play around with it. Okay, I need to have more my view model here. So yeah, we're going to do something like this, and then we're going to move it backward here. And then we can move it a little backwards so we're not touching the door frame. It's very important that you don't touch the frame of the door because you're going to have some errors. Just make sure you don't have it overlapping with other faces. So CE is very specific on that kind of stuff. So anyway, instead of recreating it over here, what we can easily do to cheat a little bit is we can turn on the auto merge button over here. We're going to do Shift D, X, and then snap it here, and then wiggle on it to make sure that these do not have any loose edges. If it does, do that trick where I tapped M on the keyboard and then L for the, like, it'll merge at the last vertex you selected. Or you can do what's called merge by distance, which is here, and it will tell you how many vertices are removed within this threshold. So anyway, that's for another thing we'll discuss. So yeah, so now once you've done that, we are going to cap these top faces here. So what you could do is you can hold Alt and then left click, tap F, do the same thing for the right side, left side, whatever, tap F. And then now we're going to make our teleporter. So we're going to do I to inset. Now if it does something like this, you can easily go to object mode again, and then Control A, scale. And then here we can tap I again. And then we can tap I again, and then pretty much 3 times like this. And then what we do is we delete the bottom faces like this, and by vertice we're going to snap it by the Z axis like this. So a very simple thing here. So we got all these down. Now the one trick I learned is, like, if you pull on the Y axis like this will give you an easy teleporter like form, so that way you don't have to, you know, tinker around with it. It's much easier. So now what we're going to do is we're going to extrude it. Just make sure you don't, you know, pass the hallway again. If you want to check to make sure, you can do Alt Z again, and we are not overlapping that hallway, which is a good thing. And again, keep this floor. Don't worry about the flickering faces. We'll take care of that once we cut our level, like I said. Now what we're going to do is we are going to set up our ladders. So we're going to do Shift D and then move these forward like this. And then for our lights, we are going to do Shift D and then move it on the X axis. And then we're pretty much scaling it on the X and Y axis, pretty much. This is where we're going to put renders of lights here. So we're going to do the same thing. You can copy the same thing you made over there, and boom, you have made your base in a complete form. And and another thing for the last thing we're going to put is our teleporter. So we're going to move it just a little bit, roughly in the middle between, you know, the entrance and the out entrance. And we're going to do Control R, and then hovering over this edge of our duplicated face, we're going to use our mouse wheel, and in the bottom left you can see 3 loop cuts. Hit left click and then right, and it should be like that. Now we're going to move this on the Y axis. Just move them forward like this. So something like this should work. Doesn't need to be perfect, but something like this should work. Now what we're going to do is, once we have all that, now we're going to be on to our cutting section. So now we're going to duplicate by Shift D in object mode, and we're going to just duplicate this just in case if something goes wrong with our Boolean modifier that we're going to pull off here. So if we do Alt and then left click, and we tap E and then Z, it should look like this. As long as it doesn't extrude our ladders or anything, pretty much the bounds of the base, or the structure of the base, should be like this. So once we've done that, so we're going to move it upwards like this a little bit. Just make sure that your modifier isn't applied. So we're going to move this upward, kind of like this, how I have it up here. And we're going to apply it that way, because it makes it a lot better. Sometimes it's really funky on how it does that. I really don't like that. So anyway, so make sure you go to your solver options, have index space. We're going to do transfer again. Union, which we did. So we're going to go ahead and apply. Move here. And we have our ground. So it should look something like this. So now what we're going to do is we are going to select all around. But instead of doing that, since we have the base material, we can easily do it this way. So what we can do is we can hold Shift and then click like, or do it like this, or hold Control, my bad, like this. We can easily get rid of the ground like this a lot easier. So we're going to do our thing again, and we're going to deselect everything up above it like this. Make sure that the ground floor isn't selected and the back ground floor isn't selected. And we're going to delete that. And then here, this is why we have this material. So we're going to do Shift G, material, and then while you have this active, we're going to do GZ and then move it down and snap it to any of the vertexes in the corner like that. And this makes it a whole lot easier to cut. Blender is really funky on how you cut things, so it's no biggie. So anyway, now I'm going to introduce you guys something about what's called non-manifold geometry. So in order to check for bad edges, which Halo 1 despises, we are going to go to Select, All by Trait, and we're going to do Non-Manifold, and we're going to hold Z and go to Wireframe, and we can do Alt-Z so we can see through. You'll start to see lines. Now, if you see something that's selected with our teleport textures and our ladders and our, lights and stuff, just ignore those. Those are render only object, well, except for the ladders. The ladders are double-sided, which I'll get to in a moment. But these don't count as collidable geometry except for ladders because, Halo 1's engine's really funky. The ones that you need to watch out for are the edges on the outside part of the base. What I'm meaning is outside where the door frame is. And that's because it's not connected. So we can see we have a very loose edge, which Halo does not like at all. So in order to fix this, we need to go tap N, where you go to Tool, select Options, and we are going to select this, Correct Face Attributes. So what this will do, as you hover over it, it'll basically correct the UVs as you do it. But typically, I don't like messing with that because, actually, no, it's sometimes useful in some areas, but for this is a lot easier to do it with that. So then you don't screw up and make, distorted textures because, you didn't, move the UVs in a particular way. So it automatically does it for you if you have that option on. So we're going to go ahead and merge this over here. So we're going to do M and then L. But if it starts to do this, like I said before, it'll do something like this. In order to avoid this, what I recommend doing is doing Control X to dissolve it, or you can do X, dissolve edges. And then what you can do is you can tap J on your keyboard to connect them. So we can click this one right here and that, tap J, and you won't have any distorted textures. So yeah, that's pretty much how it works. Now we're going to do the same thing over here. So we're going to do the same thing, rinse and repeat. So we're basically correcting the geometry of it. It doesn't really matter how you connect it, as long as it's you're correcting the bad edges of it all. So yeah, so we're gonna just connect it to over here, because why not? You can just connect it right here. So we have one right here. We're gonna just connect it over there. And we're gonna do the same thing, but maybe we could do it to the left. So basically it's rinse and repeat at that point of time. So yeah, this is pretty much the toughest part of doing this kind of thing, because you have to manually do it this way, because it's so much easier to do it this way. So anyway, we got that. We almost got done with it here, so we're gonna just connect it to over here, and you know, there's one right there, J, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to edge, and then we're gonna do the same thing. Select all by trait, loose, no, not loose geometry. Select all by trait, non-manifold, wireframe, and as we can see, we do not see any highlighted edges. That's because we fixed it, so it's properly sealed. So as long as it looks like this should be fine, including the water. It's the same thing. So don't worry too much about these. This is normal. Now make sure you check to see your geometry sealed around these edges, because if it's not, Tool will not like that when you import it into CE. So anyway, enough me, blibber blathering. We're gonna go ahead and texture this. So we're gonna do Shift G, material, and we're just gonna deselect the top here. This is what I do normally. So we're gonna just deselect inside of here. I mean, you can select it however you want. This is how I do it. So I deselect all around here because it makes it a lot easier to do it this way. Yeah, outside the teleporter frame, including our ladders. We do not want our ladders to be textured, including inside the hallway. We're gonna have to deselect in here, as well as the lights. And if you can't get access to them, you can go underneath and try to deselect them, which we did. And the same thing for our floor. So anyway, so we're going to do it like this. This is how it should be selected. And we are going to turn this material into example tutorial panels, like that. And then we're going to put our image texture on it, add it. We're going to do bitmaps. And it should be this texture right here. We're going to open it. It'll look like this by normal once you import it. That's because, our UV editing is a little, blah, but we'll fix that. So basically it will look like this. Now, before we get into UV unwrapping, we're going to add the other textures. So we're going to do so it's rinse and repeat at this point when you're adding textures. So we're going to do example tutorial plate _ floor, and we're going to do the teleporter and lights last. So we got that. We're going to do our material texture. Oh yeah, I forgot. We're going to do material texture, or our metal. So tutorial _ metal. And we're going to do one example tutorial metal floor. Okay, so we got most of these. So we're going to assign these. So this is going to be the plate floor texture, which I'm going to add the image for that. Yep, so it's that texture. And then the metal is going to go on these walls. and it'll, if you want to fix where it's see-through through this, you can easily fix that. So we can go to vertical split, same thing I told you before, and you can click on one of these textures here. If you tap N and you click none, it will not have the weird funky stuff going on. So yep, we got that. Material floor goes on the bottom here, and our lights are going to be the same way. Now, the one thing I forgot to tell you about the lights is oh yeah, that's right, I was going to tell you that afterward. So what you can do is you can highlight it by selecting like this, and you can deselect it and go from there. Now, what I recommend doing is you need to move your lights underneath, or a little bit down. I forgot to say that because Halo 1 doesn't like Z fighting. So just move it down just a tad where it doesn't flicker. That's my advice. So if it doesn't flicker like that anymore, you're good to go. So we're going to do another texture, example, tutorial, lights underscore blue, or you can do red, doesn't matter. Make sure you go underneath here, put the render only flag attached to it, and then we're going to do the same thing with our textures. So we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to do, so instead of using the example tutorial, you can use teleporter shield, I think is what it's called. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I think it's called teleporter shield. Go down here, Halo material properties, render only. And another trick I like to do to make sure the teleporter is facing the right way is you can hold the middle mouse button to move around the bar, and then what you can do is you can go to your overlays, face orientation. As long as these are blue, so as long as that's blue, like these lights and everything, it will show, it'll display forward. We don't want it to display backwards, because if that's the case, the lights are not going to project out here like they should be instead of in here. Same thing goes in here, so that way the light rays don't get messed up. So just be sure you did it that way. So now, enough me blibber blattering about that. We're going to turn off face orientation, and we're going to apply this teleporter shield material. We're going to assign it, and we're almost done applying these textures. So we're going to go ahead and do this, and it will show that texture. Now for we're almost done here. So we're going to do metal. This is all going to be metal. Oh yeah, I need to assign the texture here. So we're going to do image texture, bitmaps. Oh yeah, tutorial metal, open image. And now we're going to do our lights, assign those, and image texture. Just make sure they're highlighted so you're putting the right textures, just so you know. So we're going to do lights blue, which is this texture right here. Open our image, and we'll get to those eventually. But for now, I'm just trying to put all the textures together. So now we're going to do this. Okay, so I found the texture for this. Now, if you don't have the old shield bitmap or text or TIFF for it, you technically can get away with not using it. As long as you're scaling it like this, like within this square, you should be good to go. I mean, really, you don't really need to be all that complicated with it. But for whatever reason, mine did not have, it didn't have the old texture. But if you want to use the new one, it's in teleporter shield. So if you have reclaimers, go to scenery, and you should see teleporter base, and it should have the bitmaps for it. So yeah, that's pretty much how that works. So as long as that, as long as it has it that way, you should be good to go. Oh yeah, another thing too is I forgot to add the ladders. I keep forgetting. So I need to go ahead and go in here, example, tutorial, and then we're gonna do ladder. And then we're gonna go down here, make sure we have our flags to this. So we're gonna select that, and this is gonna be a large, no, not collidable. What is it? Where is it? Two-sided and ladder. Yeah, ladder. That's what we're looking for. So as long as you have that, you're good to go. And then we're gonna add this texture here. We're going to select that, in which we did. Now we can assign this to the ladder, and then unwrap here. We can move on the scale on the x-axis again. So it should be like that. So you're going to do the same thing. Okay, so we got that. As long as it's pretty close, that's what matters, so I wouldn't really worry too much about it. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it. I forgot to assign these as metal textures. So what you could do is you could do Shift tilde to get to the camera I am, and then left click, and so on. So we're going to hit this, go underneath here. So this is going to be all metal. We're going to assign that. Now I'm going to do U. Instead of unwrap, we're going to do Q projection. And this is kind of a cheap way to do it, but it's quick and easy. So cube unwraps are fine in this regard, so you don't need to worry too much about UV unwrapping. So now we're going to do for the plate texture here, unwrap, and then we're going to scale this up in the UV editor by tapping S, and that should be good. Now we're going to, instead of selecting all this like that, what we're going to do is we're going to do select like that. And now we're going to do U and then unwrap. And it should come across like this. And we're going to rotate on 90 degrees like this. And then we're going to scale it until I scale it like this. So basically up until that crack. Like this little, or not crack, this like little line here. So, yep, so we got the exterior of it done. We're almost done here. So we can easily unwrap this and, you know, scale it however you like. Yeah, we need to do the lights. So these are going to be two different lights. So we're going to go ahead and put one of these in here. If you want to, you could do it one by one. You don't need to have both of them selected. But as long as you have it that way, you should be good. It's just something like this should work. And we're going to do the other side as well. So we're going to put it in the center and then scale it like that. So yeah, it's not perfect by any means, but it does get the job done. So we got that correct. Now we got the lights corrected. Now what we can do is we are going to reflect this on the other side, but sometimes this is a hit or miss, because sometimes this doesn't really work. But yeah, so I'm gonna just save you the headache by not having to do this again for the other side. You could do a bisect and do a material that way, so you could do it that way if you want, but it's solely up to you. So yeah, that's pretty much how that goes. So yeah, so pretty much if you're going to do the same thing over there, I recommend, the only difference with these bases is the lights. So one of them have blue lights here, and then the other should have red lights like you see in the texture part. So I'm going to go ahead and conclude this part. I will make a part 2 for this, since considering how long this video is, because there's so much to explain when it comes to this kind of stuff. Oh, and by the way, before I close out of here, what you can do if you're around your structure, what you can do is the one that you booleaned in, we're going to select all around. And if you want to triangulate it properly, you can select all around the space like this. And you can do X and then limited dissolve. And then what you can do is you can do Control T. And then for the quad method, you want to make sure it's shortest diagonal. That's because we don't want Halo CE to have some problems with the triangulation method. So this is the best way to do it. So that way you don't have any issues in the future. So that's another way to triangulate your base around. So I forgot to say that. So anyway, so stay tuned for part 2. I hope you learned something that a lot of people don't know, because I had to teach this myself. So if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and if you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. I'll be happy to help. So anyway, take care everyone, and I'll see you in the next part. Wicked Modeler 3D out.